What, they don't say anything on The Office?
All right. Hello, everybody. That's a good starting point. So,
what up, guys?
Welcome back to the first 4 episodes or more, however long we want to go through. My name is HSR.
My name's Chris Chrome.
My name is Syd.
So we are doing our second one because we're doing these 2 in a row. So if we seem less enthused, sorry.
Or we're in the same stuff.
But there is actually going to be a fairly large argument right in the middle of this episode.
It's entirely possible. So I didn't write down the name of this episode. My bad.
It was Krill. It was just called Krill.
Okay. So, this is where Alara dumps the guy, and this is how this episode starts. So we had a whole conversation spoiling the beginning of this episode. Thanks, Chris. Then they jump.
Well, hang on. At the beginning of every video, we say hashtag spoilers, but we don't necessarily say just for this episode, right? So we may fuck off.
Thank you for the save.
When you look down below and you see season 1, episode 6, you expect the subject matter to be season 1, episode 6. So you're not expecting a spoiler for the next episode you might not have watched yet.
It might happen.
I know.
Be aware.
It's fine.
We're human.
Anyway,
also
if you watched the last
non-professional.
episode, you know that this episode starts with Bortus eating a cactus and breaking glass, and that Alara dumped her boyfriend because he's too jealous. And
that's the beginning of this episode.
That's what I'm saying. We did.
Fuck. Okay, so Bortus eats a fucking cactus.
So now we have to say it all a second time.
Whatever, we're done. The video's over. Bortus ate a cactus.
No, so basically, Alara.
Episode finished.
It was like 39 minutes of nothing.
Yeah,
I'm just kidding. It's actually a pretty good episode.
Season 1, episode 6. Anyway, so it starts off, Alara dumps the guy, then they jump into the emasculation of female strength, and just kind of like how if the girl's stronger, guys can't handle it, and blah, blah, blah. And then Isaac flat out says he would fuck her. Just to experiment.
Okay, I want to just touch upon this. I just
in
want
such
to
an
touch upon
awkward
this.
way.
It doesn't sound like he's someone of her age either.
It's more like
it
he's
sounds
this
like
superior intellectual person who has no idea what it means, and he's like, I want to know what sex is. Would you like to have sex with me?
But he kind of like he portrays it as like he's not actually horny for her or anything. He's just kind of like,
I want
would
to
you
learn.
like to experiment with me?
Yeah.
We could do this. And she's just like, as a living, breathing woman, is like, this is weird. Like, we don't know each other that way.
And then,
but I mean, just to allude to the fact that like, what if Isaac wasn't alive? I mean,
so like, what if your dildo like
I'm just
started
saying,
talking?
like there's vibrating dildos. There's Isaac.
Okay.
I'm making this weird, but I'm just
so if you get a fleshlight,
is it because he's alive? What if he wasn't alive? Would it just be like
if you have a fleshlight with Siri,
what do you
right? For example,
anyway. This is
just like, hey Siri, vibrate. I will
She's
comply.
weirded out because Isaac is.
She's weirded out because a guy came up and said specifically, "Do you want to have sex?"
But
so
this
bluntly,
guy is a
and
robot. I'm just making.
I mean, that's why she isn't offended by it. That's why she dismisses it so passively. You're right. But, like, yeah, it's more funny because, like, she responds in the way she would if... Anyway,
so then more stuff happens.
So then they go through the whole thing where Boris eats the ball of wasabi, and then they find out he can eat it. Listen, just the end of the last one. We just did this. So he eats the fucking cactus, and he eats the plate and the glass. He can eat anything. It's a trope. They're going to run through it. Sorry if this isn't enthusiastic. It was so enthusiastic.
We just did this, but Bortus eats a cactus. It's
anyway,
like The Office.
So we go to the bridge, and then we find out that Castor 4 has weak planetary shit, and there's a Krill ship, and they're outgunned. And he's like, yo,
send like a message to them.
And then he's like, open up a message and send it. And then he starts talking like immediately. She's like, it's not open yet.
Like, relax. Give me 2 seconds.
This works really well as like the mid-season reveal of the big bad, right?
Why?
Like, so we've already seen the Krill once,
right?
And they were kind of like the big bad of the first episode, but they were still kind of in the background with the relationship. And then they've kind of been sprinkled out like throughout the last 5 episodes or so. And now like mid-season, episode 6, you know, it's gonna be like a 12 or 13 episode season. Like this is where you get that big bang of an episode where you meet the bad guy and you know shit is going to go down now.
Well, I would like to just make it a point that it's not the Krill entirely.
Don't spoil the damn plot. We're going to talk about the freaking episode, and we're going to spoil it over the episode. All we know now is that it's the Krill. Right? Yeah, you just spoiled a whole freaking end of an episode.
Hashtag spoilers.
Yes.
Hashtag disclaimer of spoilers at the beginning.
Anyway, so then they do the little cute joke where like he like opens up the communications, and then she's like, I'm gonna do it, and then like he starts talking. She's like, it's not there yet, which is just funny because it's probably something that happens all the time, but it's always seamless and flawless in Star Trek. Yes, this is a parody of Star Trek. Yes, this is a new episode. We can say that again. And then he's like, cease fire or else. And she's like, when has that ever worked? And
Kelly.
Kelly. And then they just stop shooting, and then like the ship kind of turns towards
and no, hold on. So Kelly acknowledges the fact that when has that ever happened when you're like, cease fire or we'll shoot. And then Bortus turns around and Bortus' voice, do it, just do it. They have seized fire on the planet.
Yes.
They have
seized fire on the planet.
It's just so cute how
and
like
then he looks so smug for a second.
Because it's like counteracting what she just said. It's
and then
like
the ship just starts to turn, and he's like, I don't really think it worked. And that was just funny. And then the automatic. So then it like a shot hits the ship and shit, and a fire catches break, and he's like, why didn't you put out the fire? What happened to the automatic fire suppression system?
And that's the
Alara's
panel
like,
got on
that's
fire.
the panel, which is really funny.
Cliche.
I mean, it's unrealistic there, but it's funny. It's not cliche. Anyway.
Well,
so then they're in a hopeless battle.
A lot of shows and a lot of TV shows have turn on our defense system. Where's the defense system panel? That's the one that got broken.
Yeah, I guess
turn on this defense.
Right.
That's the one they blew up.
Okay, you win this one, Christopher. You win this one. There. On the record. Blah, blah. So then anyway, they come up with a mad fucking creative solution of like going into the atmosphere. And again, this is all cliche. This is done a million times in Star Trek and shit. And then they use the planet's atmosphere and cloak them. And then the shots don't work. Then they unload all the thingies and everything's well executed. And what you see is Mercer is in fucking control, comes up with creative solutions and execute it, and Mercer is becoming like the real captain of the Orville, and it's not so much like that guy from episode 1 that's a complete goofball.
I am not disagreeing any of that. That is an amazing point. Mercer is growing up in terms of being a better captain. I just want to say I like the special effects in this show.
Nice.
They have really, really nice special effects. It's
and
very well
lighting.
done. And
they have
great lighting.
Really good practical effects. Like they don't rely too much on CGI or on anything too computer animated. Like it's all costumes. It's all.
But I'm saying like it's timed well. It's there. Like it's not too much. Like you see a lot of these like even movies and other shows. There's a lot of like lasers are all the time consistently there. Here it's
Hashtag
like
Michael Bay.
Hashtag really bad new Star Trek movies.
Yo, those movies are awesome. I will not
you need to
accept the
have
second
it consistent in a way where there's time in between. You need to have like put the lasers now, get that one shot,
yes,
make it
it's
spectacular.
well made. So then they contact the surface and send a medical team down, and they realize they have, before they do this, they look up and they're like, holy shit, a real Krill shuttle, and we can capture it. And Bortus goes, to the victors go the spoils.
But when do they decide that they're going to try and make peace?
Later.
No, that's the thing. So right after the scene where they get the ship, they brought the ship to the Union.
We have... Then
it cuts right to the Union. Right after they get the ship.
show up. They don't bring the ship there. There's two ships kind of flowing together.
Whatever.
The Union guys linked up, and then they're like, he's like, I bet you guys are excited to get this and discover the technology.
Yeah.
And they're like, nah, we got a different mission for y'all. You're gonna go undercover and get their Bible thing, the whatever it's called. I wrote it down later. And then they explain how the Krill use radical religious beliefs to harass, pillage, rape, and take because every other species they encounter are kind of subhuman, and that every Krill has this on board. And then, they're going to find out that the whole objective of this mission is to capture the book so they can use radical fundamentalist logic based on their belief system to communicate effectively with them to create equal grounding for peace talks.
Because what the Krill believe is that other life forms have no souls, right? So they're like these evil, lifeless beings that have declared war on the good and the virtuous Krill who have the souls.
Yes.
And worship a god that we will get into.
Yes.
Because it is a cute joke.
And then they're in the shuttle bay, and they're all talking, and they walk in looking as Krills, blah, 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 scary.
Well, Malloy looks like a Krill, and Seth MacFarlane is being held by Malloy, who looks like a Krill, ready to kill him, and then there's a whole joke, and ha. And then after, Kelly's like, oh my God, you better not die, I'm going to miss you, I love you, please get back.
Probably didn't say asshole.
Well, no, but there's this, there's this allude to where she's like, why are you so happy and joking around? And he's like, because I'm scared shitless. And I think that that's a really relatable point because a lot of people...
Because he doesn't have any undercover experience, as was
Yeah.
alluded when Kelly embarrassed him in front of... You don't have to embarrass me in front of, like, the company, you know?
Well, yeah, to answer Syd's question, because we never got to it, they never really stated when they figured out when they wanted to make peace. It was just...
I
union
actually
and
said that they wanted to use the Kalah to negotiate
Yes,
peace talks over...
But the decision of making the peace, I'm saying, like, when he's asking, like, when did they decide they were going to make peace? I'm just saying, like, it was just kind of happening in the background. It wasn't like...
Okay, but they go to the Krill ship with the express mission of trying to make
and
peace.
that was revealed in this moment in the plot.
Okay, so we're right here.
Yes.
The mission was revealed, but I think the initial decision was not, like...
The entire point of the mission.
Like, where the whole union meets up and goes, oh, we're doing this.
Obviously, that didn't happen. Because we would have known that. But it's kind of alluded from the beginning that they've mentioned the whole way through this that the Krill is an enemy they don't understand and they want to make peace. And that's the whole way through their attitude with it. So it's not really that novel. Yeah, they are very reactionary to the Krill. They fight and defend, but like the Union's attitude is like the Federation. We don't want to be the aggressor. We fight because we have to. They're not going out of their way to attack the Krill, is what I'm trying to say.
No. Not, yeah.
So it's very reactionary, and they don't understand the Krill, and they've established that. And so now they're trying to make peace with them, which is a natural follow-up. Anyway, so then the shuttle takes off, and this is great because they're sitting there in the ship, and you never see this in Star Trek, and Malloy's just singing along to some old-timey fucking music. And then...
Oh, yeah, what is he singing along to?
I can't remember it.
But that's still, I find, cliche. Like, I've seen that been done in multiple
But it's never done in Star Trek.
Fair. Maybe not in Star Trek.
And you have to keep in mind that what a lot of this show is doing is taking really cliche shit and doing it in Star Trek.
So now
what?
So that's just going to keep happening.
Here's an interesting question for you.
Like, I've never seen Star Trek, so for me, this is another like show that's trying to be new.
Hang on, here's an interesting question for you because this isn't even
Star
new.
Trek at this point and watch an episode and then see why it's funnier.
Fair.
But this isn't even new for Seth MacFarlane, right?
No,
because he did this for Star Wars. He did all three of them, and we've had the same kind of thing.
We've had this conversation, but what we're saying is that Seth MacFarlane is taking these normally super serious Star Trek moments and doing the normal Seth MacFarlane thing to them. So yes, obviously we've mentioned.
So my question to you, like, I'm not going either or. I just want to know. Do you want to see something new from him, or is this funny again? If you're a Seth MacFarlane fan.
See, that's the thing.
Like, I found it funny, honestly. I thought it was cute.
I think it's cute. I think it's cute. I think it's a little outplayed because I've seen this multiple times.
I think that's the thing. You're lacking the context of the joke.
Okay.
So it's obviously going to be overplayed, but that's what he does. He takes into specific situations and he makes fun of that specific situation in the same way. So if you can't see why because you haven't seen all the seasons of serious conversation and quiet moments in the shuttle pod, and then that happened, I honestly, it's just so ridiculous. And that's why it's funny. So once you have the whole context, I'm telling you, watch a couple Star Treks and you're going to try.
But you don't have to, like...
I'm not saying a lot, but if you really have never seen Star Trek, you're probably going to end up feeling a little bit more like that. Whereas having seen Star Trek and understanding why it's funny, then you get a deeper appreciation for the humor. Like, like,
I've never seen Misery, but I still laughed at the Family Guy spoof of that. You know what I mean? Like...
But that was novel stimuli because
kind of
that's in the very beginning when it was still amazing.
It was like season 9.
Nah, it was
season 8, Three Kings.
Maybe.
It's pretty later on in the season.
Anyway,
it was.
So back to real life Family Guy.
Anyway, I'm just saying. So yes, there's going to be a lot of stereotypical things, but why it's funny is because it's happening in normally super serious Star Trek things.
Fair.
And then as they're about, so yeah, he's like, can you get serious? And they're looking at the intelligence briefing, and this is amazing. They go out, they're already there, they've got the technology to mask themselves and everything, and
nobody's picked a name.
Yeah, and they're like, what does a Krill name sound like? I don't know. And they're just kind of like making up weird names, and then they like give a Jewish name. We probably shouldn't do the Jewish one. It was like Burgerstein or something.
Burgerstein.
Something like that. And then the Krill destroyer approaches, and they get their chance to test their shit out, and it works. Yeah, so they get on the ship and introduce themselves as, would you like to take this one? Chris and Devin, because you fucking dropped the ball.
I can't, because it's like, because I wanted to do the whole, what's your name? Oh, well, I'm Chris and he's Devin. And it's just so
and then they're
casual.
Like, this is amazing, right?
Like,
because the Krill don't suspect them as not being Krill. They just immediately look at them like, these are some fucking losers I don't want to know.
They don't, hang on. It doesn't take them very long, though. Like, they are being watched.
Right,
no.
Most of the time.
Everyone thinks they're Krill except for the priest.
At this point...
Right, but
No. At this point, I would disagree. I would say that up until about 70% of the episode, because you have the Anyway.
So, here's the thing. Most of the Krill seem to be a lot like Bortus, but less interesting. Just, like, super stoic, super like old school in the way they speak, and then you have these two idiots coming in, talking like Seth MacFarlane and people who.
But that's the thing is, I don't think that they don't suspect it. I think that they're just like, these are weird Krills. They're not suspecting they're humans. Is what I'm trying to say.
They have no reason to, right? They look exactly like Krills.
But they're looking at them like these guys are fucking. Like, it's literally what I said. Thank you, Sid.
You're strange.
And then, it gets funny. Like, I don't know. Anyway, it gets funny. This episode has some good things. It is like The Office. Then they get on they escape because they were doing maintenance, some basic bad stories. They're talking. Then they bring up the Akana and shit. So, Malloy's idle chat as they're walking towards like the religious thing is freaking awesome. He's kind of like, don't you think like it's great when people have fashion and like what Krill wear on their off times? And again, it's more like, who the fuck are these weirdos? Like, shut the fuck up. I don't have any interest in what you're saying. They get to the chapel and Mercer goes, I guess because he's describing how the chapel.
But you cut something. So in the bridge when they first met up and they met Chris and Devin and Seth MacFarlane and Malloy, they're talking about the Encana and all this, but then suddenly you hear a big bell and it's time to go to service.
And then they go to church. And now they're in church, and as they're about walking in, Mercer says to the priest guy, because the priest guy is like, hey, this is like my home fucking place I used to study.
Remodeled it.
And it's like, with rank as its privilege. And he's like, oh, I've never heard that. Who says that? And he's like, well, I guess I say that. That's who says that, because he doesn't know what to say, because he doesn't know anything about Krills. He's like, that's very wise. We should talk more later, which is cool. Whatever.
When do we get what their god is?
Right here.
On. You have to be patient.
Right here.
No, a little bit, yeah. And they sit down and the church thing, and they meet Lady Krill. And she's excited. They're like, yeah, his brother.
Her name is not Lady Krill.
I don't remember her name yet.
Talara.
Then they're describing some shit about her brother, and Malloy's like, yeah, we were good buddies. And then Malloy keeps punning shit about how their god is the car rental company, Avis.
Because
their god is Avis, like the car rental company.
They go and they have the service. And
no, we're not there. Wait.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, we're in the service. That's where they meet.
Yeah, and that's where all the Avis puns are coming.
Yeah, but there's no Avis puns yet because they're starting to speak about it. They're introducing it, and then there's one Katniss Everdeen pun because everybody's chanting something that sounds like Katniss Everdeen. It's like a backwards way of how they're saying it.
Point is,
so then
Avis gets ridiculous. Malloy gets ridiculous. Seth MacFarlane's like, shut the fuck up.
Yeah,
Lady Krill is like going along with it for some reason because she's like, oh my god, you knew my brother, even though they obviously didn't.
Yeah.
Right. And then after they say
all of that is the puns I was describing. Then church starts and a human head gets pulled out.
And they just super human heady.
Stab the shit out of it in a cleansing ceremony. And it's like honestly a very sobering moment in that moment. You're just like, oh fuck. It's bad, and,
But again, you have to understand, for these people, that's basically like a ceremony where you would eat a pig.
I want to
like
question something. Who the heck didn't realize that two Krill members kind of went like, oh, can't watch this when we do this every day.
Yeah, that felt a little weird. But again,
bit, I was like,
at the same time, I'm gonna counter with saying, you noticed it. Because the camera panned in on it, the rest of them were paying attention to the religious ceremony. It's so easy to hide an obvious. It's so like these details are so not worth going into because why? Who cares?
But it is another moment where it feels like they have to show that they're being disgusted, even if it's to the detriment of the.
I just
felt they have to push the plot forward.
But right? I don't actually feel that way at all. I think it was a well executed scene. It was like, because you know what, you're sitting there and you're putting yourself in their shoes a little bit. At least I was. I was like, man, that is like, I considered what would it be like if I was in that moment.
It's not out of like either to have someone notice them and like either like just give them a dirty look, you know what I mean? Like why aren't these two reacting like everybody else? Or to just have them kind of internalize it, and they can still do that.
But why would they bother to do that when they've already established that these guys are weirdos, and that would just be like an unnecessary thing to drive.
I guess with the
There's
weirdo,
no driving the plot part. They already established these guys as weirdos. Obviously they're gonna be weird, and it's not even that exaggerated. It's like a little
well, no, everybody's kind of straight faced. They put their head down and
what you think.
like,
anyway, I just don't.
Tell us what you think.
I feel
Comments
like
are down there.
it was not the most important part of the scene.
Super important. Next.
And then we bounce out the they bounce out. They run. The girl was kind of like flirts, like let's hang out again. No, I'm fine. So the girl's like kind of flirts, like let's hang out again. Then they dip out and run around the corner. They're freaking out for a minute. They sneak back into the room with the book and they start scanning it. And it's freaking huge, and they're going like page by fucking page.
Malloy's like, wow. There's a lot of pages. Like, thanks, Captain Obvious.
Yeah, and then the priest guy's like, what the fuck are you doing here? Because he walks in. Another Avis pun. I didn't write them down, but it was...
what is it? Oh, wait. Oh, Lord, please cover the cost of our vehicle.
some shit like that.
A lot of really obvious, like, this is a car rental company, you idiots.
Yeah, and they're all like, we're checking out the book. Because, you know, and Mercer kind of quotes like cliche Christians. We're like, yeah, when I'm feeling blue, I open it up to a random Bible page. And whatever it says, I'll read it and I'll feel better. And he basically does his version of that. And because they're in an environment where no one knows these stereotypes, they can just say that shit and it works. And they're already weirdos, as we've established. Then they go back to their quarters. They look at some dark literature. They sneak back into the room, back to the scanning of pages.
Well, they don't look at dark literature. They looked at menus and time settings for the schedule so that they can know that it's night shift.
Yeah, but he makes a comment saying, man, their literature is really dark.
Well, yeah, but I think it's
so
just
then
like
he obviously looked at dark literature.
Okay.
They go back to their quarters. Anyway, fuck, man. The priest comes out and he's like, let's plant, because now the priest and the captain are there. And this is why I'm saying that people don't think they're not human earlier, is because the priest is convinced that there's something weird about them.
Right.
Let's plant guards at the chapel. And the captain's like, I don't see the need for it, homeboy. But basically, you didn't get to where you were without being good at what you do, so I will defer to your better judgment.
Some of that was line for line.
Yeah, a little bit. And then all of a sudden, the holographic shit in their costumes just stops working, and they look like normal folk again.
And they don't realize it.
And then as the guards are kind of like arriving, but
they realized it while the guards on its way.
Yeah, and then they just duck down.
But it doesn't happen right away. Like they're kind of doing their thing, and they look up
and he's like,
"Whoa,
you look like you again."
Yeah.
And then the guard comes in. They duck down. They do some sneakies out of the freaking room. The guard doesn't realize them.
But he does hear them as they run out of the room. He's like,
then they bolt back to their rooms. They figure out a way to make this shit work again. They realize something.
This is actually super important. This is super important.
Something on board has high electrical interference that's fucking around with their ability. They calibrate. They go down to the room, and they find out there's a motherfucking missile.
It's a bomb.
A huge bomb. And then it's like they got the Akana, but Malloy is kind of like, let's bounce. And Mercer's like, nah, man, we can't bounce. We need to know what's up with this bomb. Who are they going to take out? Yeah. Even though they've accomplished their mission at this time. Which seems far-fetched because that book was literally thousands of pages.
But my question is this a Star Trek thing? Like, is this a typical Star Trek thing where like the main character jumps in always to like save the day? Like, it would have been a lot smarter for them to be like, okay, let's go back now that we know there's a missile. Let's go back and get our team.
Why? I think it's kind of presenting a lot of ethical questions.
Because they don't say like, we have to destroy the missile. They say we don't know how much time we have to find out what this is, right? Yeah, so it's like we have to figure out what's going on here at least.
Because, so yes, this is a military-based organization. They are going to make ethical choices about war in that kind of a context.
Fair. And like this is a reconnaissance mission, right? So as long as they're there,
so if you
that makes sense.
This is totally beyond Star Trek. Like to me, that in and of itself is its own stereotype. But really, they're going after a specific group of people in our regular society with the idea, and I'm like the religiously fanatics, since it's very, a little close to home.
Anyway, so they're like, let's go talk to Lady Krill, which is now her name. I'm sticking to that.
That's okay.
Kalah.
So they sit down with Lady Krill, and she prays to Avis, and then he says their fucking tagline, the slogan for Avis. we try harder. Is his fucking prayer. It's amazing.
Praying, like super serious.
It is
it's
awesome.
hilarious.
Then they find out the Akana teaches that those who are not Krill are literally evil, and they're basically going to nuke a continent of Rama 3 as
But
a
the way
test
he
place.
does it, isn't it? He's kind of like, so how about that bomb that we're making? Hey, that's great. Where's that going again? And she kind of like really obviously explains it without even questioning why he doesn't.
Then he's like, but man, there's no defenses there. And Chicky Poo's like, yeah, it makes total sense to test it there. Chicky Poo's what I changed it up to at this point.
Lady Krill Chicky Poo. And she also,
Alara?
she's like...
Did you say, Tolara?
Tolara.
So it's Alara with a T.
She also drives the point home again that like the Krill do not believe these people have souls, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
Like,
absolutely.
Well, that's when they, and there's a part, we'll get to that, but there's a part, that's part of the kids' part.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's which we haven't got to.
Exactly.
Anyway, so they're like, oh my god, we have to destroy
So
this bomb.
Malloy
There's
wants
gonna be millions
to.
of people
So,
dying.
yeah, Malloy wants to get out, and Mercer's like, look, we have. Malloy wants to bounce out, and then Mercer's like, yo, look, there's shit we need to do. We have to figure out what's going on. We can create a feedback loop to activate the weapon and then basically destroy it, etc. So they finna take the shuttle and then get out there and kind of like destroy the ship is their first thought, right? Because, destroy the ship. We don't have all those people die. It's the right thing to do. And they're kind of debating what's the right thing to do there.
Because
we came here to make peace, and now we have to destroy them all because that's...
Like, do you take a ship full of lives even if they are planning to take millions more lives?
Yeah.
It's a really tough, like, the way they present it is well done.
And then the plot thickens.
As they head out, Talea's like, hey, can I see you for a minute here? And you gotta keep in mind, there's like 6 minutes left in the episode for everything we're about to say now. I'm like, then they go into the room, and he's like, can you come speak to a bunch of trainees? They're like, okay, whatever. And yeah, it is a lot of little kids.
And to be fair, like,
and
the kids' faces look like kids.
Like, they really drive it home that, like, you're about to kill a bunch of children.
And
the
all
thing
look
is
innocent.
they get introduced as, like,
all...
brave warriors and war heroes who've killed the humans, and they just start asking, like, innocuous questions.
How many humans did you kill?
Like,
how
did
many
humans have souls?
And there's that one kid who's, like, a key kid who's asking questions like, maybe the humans are people, too. And it's interesting because you can see that they're trying to answer it, like, how do we answer these questions?
It's basically like a kid you're babysitting comes up to you and asks you what sex is.
Yeah.
Like, it's that kind of moment where it's like,
anyway.
Look over there, run.
And then they go back to the room, and Mercer and Malloy are debating it even further because it's more complicated.
Kid shows up.
Kojak shows up, and
Koji.
they start discussing Kojak. Whatever.
Bojack.
They start to patronize him a bit. They go like, yeah, the Earth's over there. And then they start describing, like, why do they look different? And as he's describing it, he realizes it has to do with light, and he kicks the kid out of the room, and they come up with their brilliant fucking plan. Is basically
turn up all the light up in the ship so
it's
that
gonna
these space
kill these
vampires
fuckers.
can die.
And yeah, then they find out they're space vampires, and then he's just like, you know what, dude? We're vampire hunters. Classic moment Chris ruined. And then well, he like...
You said it at the same time.
We said it, the vampire, but he like spoiled it with his vampires line right before.
I know, whatever. They're Abraham Lincoln. Move on.
Yes. Then Mercer distracts the guard and takes him out in a really funny way. Hey, don't you think there'd be a thing that's like, yes, that would look really nice.
Don't you think there should be a leather background that says Avis on it?
Man.
Which is basically the Avis welcome mat when you walk into a store.
And then he gets a gun and he runs off. We cut to Malloy's tampering. The trap gets set.
Hang on, I feel like we didn't really make it clear what the plan was. So they're gonna turn on all the lights in the ship except for the lights in this classroom. So they're not gonna kill the kids, but they are gonna kill everyone else on the ship, and that's kind of like the compromise they have to make.
Well, hold on. They're gonna kill everyone on the ship,
and they're gonna
hopefully to stop the missile.
Right.
Well, that's what their plan is, but they don't want to kill the kids.
But it's not to. I don't think it's actually to kill the people. I think that if there was another way to save all the Krill, I think they would. But because
they've
already established they're gonna kill the Krill, and they were gonna blow the ship up earlier.
I'm not saying
and now they're planning to kill. What they're establishing is instead of killing everybody on the ship, they're gonna kill everybody but the kids this time because it's wrong to kill the kids.
We must not suffer the little children.
And then and I think that's interesting. It's just an interesting thing to think about. Like, what's the right thing to do? Should you save the kids, etc.? Then the trap gets set. They find out they have 10 minutes. Malloy forgets the rendezvous. He's like, it's the bridge. It's kind of funny. Then he gets caught and by the priest guy. And Mercer ends up back in the classroom at the same time, only to find out that kid we're supposed to empathize with from earlier is still missing. Then we cut back to the priest guy. He's like, yo, what's this union device? And they find another one. Then the alarm goes off, and he, like, you know, Mercer's in the room with the kids at this point, and she's like, what's going on? Shit's not right because they're looking for him. And then he runs off looking for the little kid. We see there's 4:43 left on the timer. They begin to chase. Mercer tricks them and escapes. Malloy has lost his covering. He's all human, and this is great. So the priest or whatever is like, where is your compatriot? And he's just like, I don't know that word. And then they keep going, and that was amazing to me.
So the captain asked him, the priest found him at the thing, brought him to the bridge, and the captain asked him, like, where's your compatriot? And he was
and then he gets stabbed in the fucking leg.
On his new leg.
Brand new leg. Just got it.
So sad.
And then the ship approaches the planet. They start to take out the weapon and prepare it. And basically, Malloy tries to make a case for the people, and he takes the leg and fucking twists the knife, like literally twists the knife in his leg.
It's pretty rough.
Which is like, it's such a literal thing.
But it really drives home the point that the Krill have no actual
and the bomb,
source of like
humanity.
Yeah.
Empathy.
For humans.
Nothing.
They have no empathy for what they believe to be the soulless humans.
Yeah.
And then they send a bomb out, and then we see that there are still 55 seconds left. Mercer's running some cool, tricky shit and gets out. Then he grabs the kid, brings him towards the classroom. They fired a weapon. He gets back to the room. Then the whole light bullshit happens. And then
all the vampires all disintegrate.
Yeah,
they all turn to
die,
stone. Malloy gets a really big sunburn because he's on the bridge.
The kids and the teacher lady survive. Then Malloy shoots the bomb, saving the day. And then we cut back over to the kids, and it's really like Seth MacFarlane's like, okay, don't be mad.
Yeah.
And then he like explains what happens.
Like,
then,
we just murdered your entire crew, but like, try not to get too pissed off.
And then we cut over to the Orville, which hasn't really been the central theme of this episode. And then they realize a Krill destroyer's coming, only to find out, yay, it's Ed and Malloy, and life is okay-ish. And then they're kind of towing the ship, and we see that the ladies in the med lab. Mercer walks in, and this is such an interesting conversation, right? Because Mercer, she's like, why did you spare the kids? And he's like, because it's not right. They have their whole lives against them. They're not my enemy, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, after what you did,
they will be.
And it was just fucking deep, man.
And it's really because he looks at her and he's just like, what would you have done? You were going to kill millions of people. I had no choice. It's just like The Office when Michael has to fire someone and he goes through the whole thing. It's like he has to fire someone at the end, you know.
And it's still tough. But no, this episode really makes you think. And compared to like the last one, which was a little still driving into the relationship. First of all, not having Kelly and Mercer's relationship being the central focus point of an episode is a little refreshing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Second of all, as you pointed out, having the big villain finally coming through, seeing that we're going to have to deal with that, you know, running through that, it's really exciting.
And you know that it's going to be like the last two episodes of the season are the big confrontation between Daemon and Krill, right?
The kids are going to come back.
Actually,
something like that.
If he does it proper Star Trek style, and you can quote me on this later, what's going to happen is part 1 is the finale, and part 2 is the opener.
Of the second season?
Yeah, that's how Star Trek does it.
All right, we'll see if they get renewed for a second season. Jury's still out.
Totally fine. If Discovery got renewed, this is getting renewed. Discovery got renewed.
Hopefully it gets renewed. I'm like on board after this episode. I want to see them fight the Krill.
Absolutely. And the thing is the Krill are an interesting enemy because it's one of the safest attacks at religious fundamentalism I've seen. And that's really impressive how well they approached the topic of calling out what they felt was fucking ridiculous.
And on that note, I really hope the final confrontation isn't like textbook bad guys like we've seen. Like I want them to be I want them to have layers, you know what I mean?
Usually like what's going to happen is we're going to find the guy that is going to be the guy that we get to know a little bit, and then we learn more about the culture, but they're going to have one captain that he keeps running into or whatever. It's just interesting. I mean, that's what I hope happens because that would be fun.
Well, that's what I wanted to say a little earlier. The group of Krill that they're interacting with now, they're not all the Krill. It's just a certain group. Like, there's still a whole world that they're going to have to go to.
And then,
but what I'm saying, the reason I'm worried is because on, like, so in my opinion, the best episode so far, the one where they go to the ship that's, like, back in time and they don't know they're on a ship, whatever, that bad guy is so bad guy.
Priya?
No, episode 3.
Oh, no, episode
two.
4.
where
they go to
they're
the ship
on
and
that
it's the
ship
people
and
that
it's-
have been
yeah,
trapped
the
there
farm,
for thousands
the
of
farm.
years.
Yeah, okay.
And the bad guy in that episode is so like stereotypical
but
bad guy. I
that's
hope
what I'm
they
saying,
don't do that
is we're
for
gonna
the
get
big
to
bad of the
actually
season.
know some of these characters. Like, think about it. This ship may have been destroyed, right? But now that we've established that there's blood now, like there's gonna be a war or something's gonna happen.
Yeah.
So then we're gonna actually get to know who our main villain is. So now we've established that this
more
species.
like ash, not really blood.
Okay, sure.
And the world will turn to ash.
Sure.
Hashtag
Anyway.
Pokemon, the second movie.
Yeah, buddy. All right.
power
On
of
that
one.
note, I really fucking love this episode. It made me really excited. I still haven't seen the new episode, which is out now, and I can't wait to watch that. And yeah, I'm excited for the next one. If you like this video, feel free to like it.
Comment, tell us what you think.
Subscribe to the channel, please. We also review music and stuff. 6 seasons in a movie or something. I don't know which trope we're playing on today.
Watch The Office.
Holla.